Imagine a country so addicted to a drug that millions of its people stopped working. Families collapse, crimes rises, the entire economy begins to crumble. Now imagine another country making billions by just selling that drug. The first country decides that enough is enough. It bans the drug and destroys tons and thousands of it. Any normal person would think that the drug dealers would lose. Instead, the drug dealers sent the world's most powerful navy. They occupied ports, bombarded cities, and defeated an entire empire that ruled over there for 2000 years. And then forced the victim to keep buying the drugs. Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's what happened in China. Now let's understand the story of Opium Wars in this episode of Dev This Side. To understand the Opium Wars, we need to first understand about China in the early 1800s. Back then, China wasn't weak, it wasn't poor, it wasn't colonized. In fact, it was one of the richest and most powerful civilizations on earth. European merchants desperately needed Chinese goods. Tea, silk, porcelain. These weren't luxury items anymore. They had become everyday necessities across Europe, especially Britain. There was just one problem. China wasn't interested in buying much from Europe. The Chinese believed they already have everything they needed. So Britain used to pay for Chinese goods using silver. Year after year, ship after ship, large tons of silver flowed out of Britain into China. Britain had a serious problem and it desperately needed a solution. Britain found that solution in India. At that time, much of India was controlled by the British through East India Company. In India, they grew enormous amounts of opium. Now, opium is a powerful narcotic derived from the poppy plants. It relieves pain but is also highly addictive. Officially, China had banned opium, but that didn't stop the smugglers. British traders secretly shipped opium into China. Chinese middlemen distributed it across the country. Demands exploded, and within a few decades, millions of Chinese people were addicted. Merchants, government officials, soldiers, even scholars. Ironically, the silver that was flowing out of Britain for tea was flowing back into British hands via opium sales. Britain had solved its trade deficit, but China was paying a devastating price. The Chinese government knew the country was in trouble. Addiction was destroying productivity, corruption was spreading, government revenues were falling. The emperor appointed an official by the name Lin Zexu. Now his mission was simple: end the opium trade. Lin cracked down aggressively. He arrested drug dealers, confiscated huge stockpiles of opium. Then in a dramatic act, he destroyed more than 20,000 chests of opium by mixing them with lime and salt water before dumping them. It was one of the largest drug seizures in history. Lin also wrote a letter to Queen Victoria of England. He asked a simple question: if opium was illegal in Britain, why was Britain selling it to China? He never received a meaningful reply. Instead, Britain prepared for war. On paper, China looked unbeatable. Its population was enormous, its empire stretched vast territories. Britain was a small island thousands of miles away. But wars aren't won by population alone. Britain had something China didn't: steam-powered warships, modern artillery, highly trained professional soldiers, and industrial manufacturing. When fighting began in 1839, British naval forces easily defeated Chinese fleets, which were made mostly of wooden sailing ships. One Chinese fortress after another fell. Major ports were captured. The Qing dynasty simply couldn't compete with industrial warfare. After 3 years, China surrendered. The peace agreement became known as the Treaty of Nanking. It was one of history's first unequal treaties. China had to pay massive indemnity, open several ports to British trade, give special privileges to British citizens, and perhaps most famously, hand over Hong Kong to Britain. It wasn't fair, but China had no choice. But the story didn't end there. A few years later, another conflict erupted, the Second Opium War. Britain, joined by France, demanded even greater access to China. Once again, China lost. Foreign powers gained even more influence over Chinese territory and trade. The Opium Wars marked the beginning of what China calls the century of humiliation. For roughly over 100 years, foreign powers interfered repeatedly in China's affairs. Large part of its economy were being controlled by the outsiders. Its sovereignty was weakened. The period deeply shaped China's modern politics. Even today, when Chinese leaders talk about national strength or resisting foreign pressure or protecting sovereignty, the memory of the Opium War is never far away. It remains one of the most defining period of China's national identity. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you enjoy watching our content, please do subscribe to the channel because we are going to break down geopolitics and economics in a way that makes sense for all of us. See you in the next one soon. Till then, stay happy, stay diplomatic. This is Dev this side signing off. Peace.